Hey, awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today. We have another Brand Pollinators community call. I wasn't sure if we were going to do the community calls every month again this year, but our community has asked to keep them going because they've been really valuable for people. So I'm glad to have the 2024 edition started off. So just in case you're not familiar with Brand Pollinators, we help impact-driven brands grow by using the power of collaboration. So we connect with consumer-driven emerging brands that are making an impact and find ways that they can work together, whether that's through a marketing collaboration or an operational collaboration, or maybe that's just finding resources that are valuable to them. And we do these community calls every month. We do a weekly email that goes out to our founders every Sunday. And that includes marketing insights, awards they could apply for, grants, events they can attend, things like that. And then we now have a priority membership where it's basically a concierge service where you get hand-selected opportunities just for your brand. So please check out our website or reach out to me if you have questions about that. But today it's not so much about us, it's more about you and your shipping needs. So we brought a very special guest, Lisa Petty from CalGal Freight Solutions, and she has over 17 years of experience. She's really forward-thinking, innovative, and just super energetic. So she does a great job with her clients, and she's always looking for ways to support impact-driven brands. So she works specifically with CPG products, including food, non-alcoholic beverage, skincare, pet care. And she specializes in FTL, LTL, expedited shipping solutions, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, great company to work with. And we're so happy to have founder Lisa here today.
Awesome. Thank you, Kate. That was quite the intro. So thank you all for being here today. I know your time is very valuable. I'm truly honored and grateful for the chance to share my insights that I hope will empower and inspire you to make improvements in your company. So special thanks to you, Kate, for organizing this call. And let's just dive right in.
Yeah, for sure. One of my first questions was really just about like, why would somebody want to outsource their logistics? Because I know I've worked with some CPG companies in an operational role before, and it's tempting to just be like, well, I'll just kind of grab, this shipment over here or book something here, and think that you can kind of manage by having somebody on your team do it. But why would you advocate for somebody outsourcing their logistics?
That's a great question. And yeah, especially for new brands, but I'll highlight a few. One that first comes to my mind is it allows people to focus on growth activities within their organization. So for example, I'll tell you about a client of mine. They do private label for Kroger's pasta sauce. And before working with us, they spent tons of time managing all of their shipments, from negotiating shipping rates with carriers. They spent hours on the phone dealing with missed pickups, late fees. It was costing them time and money. And when one thing went wrong, it was just a domino effect that took their attention away from crucial growth activities like product development, marketing, sales, customer service, and even keeping a close eye on their competition. So needless to say, this customer, they were super frustrated, stressed out, and just unhappy. And it was impacting their mental health and relationships with their family. So when they met me and heard what we can do, they started to outsource some of their shipments to us. And that enabled them to focus more time and energy on their growth activities, like the new product lines. They were able to be more competitive and able to concentrate on their core mission. So that ultimately reduced their stress, strengthened relationships with their family, and they were just more happier in life in general. So that's one reason. Also, when you outsource, it gives you access to a dedicated team. So bringing your organization's specialized knowledge that you may not have in-house or you may not have the budget to hire to handle the duties that logistics, all of it entails. So, you know, we've been in business 17 years. We know what we're doing. And I don't say that to brag, but I like to paint the picture how valuable and important it is to have a dedicated team with the experience and expertise on your side. So as a freight broker agency, we leverage the buying power of our customers that gives them better rates, quality carriers, allows us to tailor solutions because each brand has their unique needs. So that's just another reason to outsource. One other that comes to mind is it mitigates your risk, allowing logistics experts like us to handle disruptions and uncertainties that help protect your operations from unexpected challenges. I'll give you an example. Some people don't even know this, but each year drivers are audited by the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, and it's to be compliant with the government. And there's commercial rules, vehicle rules and regulations that for 72 hours, there's this blitz of these random road checks and inspections of all the trucks, and it's strictly enforced. But what it does is it causes the drivers to avoid getting out on the road because they don't want to, if they get, you know, if they're not being fully compliant, which we all want them to be, but this is just the reality of what happens is it causes the drivers to avoid going out there, and that just, it impacts supply chains, and it creates a classic supply and demand scenario where the supply of trucks is reduced, increasing freight rates. So there's one coming up in May, there's another in July, and another in August. So just being aware or leaning in on your transportation provider to be the guide and advise you of these so that you're you know, not blindsided. So bottom line, value to outsource.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I felt like when I was dealing with, I mean, I haven't had the chance to work with you directly because I wasn't in a CPG company when I met you, but in my previous work, I was dealing with a logistics connection, and they just like knew, okay, it's going to be a long weekend, you know, this weekend. So you know, backtracking and like all these different nuances of, you know, what's going to impact where the drivers are going or what the wait times might be, that, you know, you just don't think of if you're not sort of immersed in that world all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Holidays is always a big one. 4th of July is another one where there's like drivers are taking off, they're going to go enjoy. And so it impacts the supply of trucks. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And like, I think most of the time, people think about it as coming down to the price. Like you just want, like, what's the cheapest way to get from A to B? But what are some other things that come into play when people are trying to decide on a particular carrier to use or a route or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, everyone's always like, you know, quality is important, but it comes down to price. And it's like, I get it. You want the cheapest rate. It impacts your bottom line, your cost of goods sold. So something to also consider is being aware of the actual transit time and if they're realistic. You know, if you're doing LTL, those carriers have their published transit time of say 4 days, but realistically, and we know this because we've done this for years, and it's like it's not, well, one, be aware that transit times aren't always accurate and it's not guaranteed. So if you need a shipment to arrive by a specific date, you just make sure you're communicating that to your logistics provider and make sure they're giving you options that can really get the job done. And then another thing to consider is if that carrier handles the delivery directly, or if they're handing it off to a partner carrier. Because if they're handing it off, one, it increases the number of times that the shipment is getting handled, which increases the risk for damages or shortages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's one. Another is understanding the delivery requirements and making sure that the carrier will actually, in fact, handle it to what's needed. So not all carriers will handle deliveries to all locations, especially if your customer has a location that has tricky delivery requirements, such as paying a lumber company like a grocery warehouse, or they have odd receiving hours in the middle of the night. one of my customers, before they started working with us, they were shipping directly with a carrier into UNFI's distribution center, and the receiving was only open in the middle of the night. And the rates they got, say it was $250, it didn't include delivering in the middle of the night because my customer didn't even know their receiving hours. They just shipped it out, put on their delivery appointment required. And then they were surprised when they got the freight bill and it was $500 more for an after hours delivery. So things like that can happen. So it's just always important to understand the full delivery requirements. And you can lean on your transportation partner too. They should be, if they're good, they're gonna, before a shipment even gets scheduled or routed, they're making sure they're understanding all the delivery requirements. That's one thing.
Yeah, and it seems like there's definitely like fees incurred if they have to wait too. Like if they arrive at the wrong time and then they sit out in the yard for a couple hours, like they're gonna charge you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's detention fees. And if it's an LTL carrier, sometimes they won't wait, and then they're gonna go and they're gonna move on, and so your shipment doesn't get delivered. It's a delay. And then if they're so that's also important to know, because certain carriers, they have the volume and they'll just go and drop trailers, and so then you're not having to pay those detention fees if that if you are experiencing that. So
yeah. And then just like another kind of logistical question is in terms of like packing up the product for shipment. I mean, I feel like I've definitely packed pallets by myself, like running around the thing with the shrink wrap and stuff. But like, what are some common mistakes you see in terms of like how people are packing the products, or like, what are some ways that people can do that in a way that is like ideally more environmentally friendly than just, 4,000 runarounds with the shrink wrap?
shrink wrap, I know it's like, more shrink wrap the better. I know that's not environmentally friendly, but I mean, you really want to make sure, because those pallets, they get jostled around, especially in the LTL environment. It doesn't stay on the same truck the whole time. And that's another thing that some new shippers, they think the truck that picks up is the actual truck that delivers, but that's not the reality. So just so you know, like, we have seen lots of mistakes happen. So just so you know, you're not alone if you've made any of these mistakes. But one of them is estimating weight and dimensions of shipments. That can lead to errors, including incorrect freight class and increased freight charges. So just use a tape measure and just go straight from the bottom all the way to the very top point of the pallet, length and width. And then as far as packing goes, how many of you have had to file a freight claim before and been very disappointed with the outcome? So if you're fortunate enough not to file a claim, I almost guarantee you will one day in your journey of being a brand. And so you want to make sure you're properly stacking the pallets with no overhang of product. If you have overhang, it's gonna you'll be more susceptible to damaged freight. And I have this whole best practices that I could send you guys after this, but just to helps with the stability and space efficiency. So it helps you want to make sure you're distributing the weight evenly on the pallets. And yeah, it just helps to avoid damages during the loading and unloading.
Well, and the damages, I mean, that's like wasting product, right? So not only is it saving you money to not have damages, but it's not trashing stuff that could have been sold.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to waste that as well. So that's a great point. Another common mistake I've seen is just lack of insurance coverage. So you want to make sure you know your shipment's full value and inform your logistics provider of that, because carrier's liability is limited so you want to ensure full protection against a loss or damage by additional insurance if it's needed. One final common mistake I see, and this is very common, and it's failure to document or document the damage on the delivery receipt when the goods are getting accepted at the time of delivery. Because if you're signing it free and clear, or if your customer is just signing it, and I know they're busy, but it's so hard to get a claim paid out if you're not inspecting it. And so because you really need to hold that carrier accountable at the time of delivery. So just making sure you're inspecting and noting the damage and to be as specific as you can. Yeah, just to help prove that the carrier was liable, and that will be very helpful for you for getting claims paid out in the future.
Yeah, that can be such a nightmare. Yeah. So like what, in terms of the environmental aspect, like, what are you seeing in terms of more responsible freight practices, like, environment wise, like,
Yeah.
using like electric trucks for a lot of these routes, or like, how is that, like, what do you see happening currently, just like
Yeah.
ideas?
Yeah. So electric vehicles is one of them for sure. Shippers are having a very, an increased demand for the electric vehicles usage and to meet their own emission goals. So carriers realize this, it's very important, and they're taking it very seriously for that more sustainability, and they're being integrated in carrier fleets. There have been studies. Last year, it was done mainly with like shorter runs. But now the technology's evolving where they're doing longer haul testing, and yes, it's reducing CO2 emissions, decreasing noise pollution, because it's a quieter ride, which actually I love this. It helps. We have a driver shortage issue, and having a quieter ride makes the environment better for the driver. So that just helps with the driver shortage. And then in the hospitality industry, US Foods, when their electric vehicle goes up to make deliveries, it's making their customers they get so excited because it's so quiet and it's not disrupting people sleeping in the hotels. So things like that is what I'm seeing as far as electric vehicle goes. And then go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's really cool, like stuff you just really wouldn't think about.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. Then there's more efficient routing of trucks as a technology using algorithms that are being employed. UPS has a program called Orion, On-Road Integrated Optimization and Navigation. And it's saving time significantly and reducing fuel consumption and emissions.
That's the one where they can only make right turns. There's like some, I feel like I've heard of this, where there's some way they have like certain rules about where they can turn because it's the most efficient routes or something like that.
Yeah. That I'm sure that's one.
That's part of it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm sure that there's a lot that goes into like planning those efficient routes, because it's a waste of everybody's time and fuel too.
Yep. And the use of AI and machine learning is also happening to help with avoiding congested routes and optimizing the delivery schedules.
Mm-hmm.
And then investments in tech and innovation. One of our partners, XPO Logistics, is doing that, and they're being a leader for more efficient LTL operations for better customer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Also seeing renewable energy and warehousing. Solar panels, wind energy is increasingly common, powering warehouses and distribution centers. That reduces the carbon footprint.
So is that something where like people could request certain like more efficient carriers, or is it just trickling down to the fact that those are going to be the more affordable options anyway?
What do you mean?
Well, just like if somebody wanted to work with a carrier that was doing more efficient practices, but like more concerned about the environment, is there options to like say that you want to work with that type of carrier?
Yeah, definitely communicate that and make sure that you express that that's important to you. And then the logistic provider can make sure that they're giving you options that fit your desired needs.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always curious about like, it just, yeah, it seems like there's got to be a way to have brands that are, in the same areas sort of work together. Like I mentioned this on a LinkedIn post recently, but like, if you're trying to work with a carrier like that, or you're an organization like that, and you want to work with some other brands and you happen to be shipping the same DC, like, is that possible to do? Or, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that's like what I would love to create and curate here together collaboratively. So I have it actually, one of my talking points is collaborative logistics. I wanted to bring up just sharing logistics resources is one thing I am seeing among companies and even competitors, to ensure that trucks and containers are fully utilized. But like there's this CalGal collaborate and consolidate freight program. I have this vision. I would love to, and maybe we can schedule another call, but I have this idea of where, we can partner with co-manufacturers, and to leverage the collective power of impact brands, and similar to what you've done here with Brand Pollinators, but do it with freight and help to optimize the co-man's freight operations. And it would lower the footprint and reduce the costs. Because if, your company is going into UNFI and this company is too, we could, if that co-man is aware of all that, and we could collab with those co-mans and just say, here are all the brands, and invoicing, we can get to that, but like, here's all the brands that are going in here. And, we could just all be on the same page. And that's my vision I have. And it would take time, but I would love to try to facilitate that and collaborate with the co-mans to, see what they have going out, and make sure that we're just being as efficient as we can.
Yeah, that is so cool. I mean, I didn't realize you were working on that program, but I mean, that's like, yeah, it's exactly like what Brand Pollinators is trying to do as well. And it just seems like when you're on the ground, like if you were in this co-packing facility and you're standing on the dock, you might notice that there's like 3 or 4 different trucks picking up product that are going to essentially the same place. And then it's like, oh, wait.
And each brand has their, like, if they're sending their own trucks, then they each have their own pricing with their freight broker. And so if we could streamline and bring it all together, I think that could work. Just, yeah, the overlapping shipping needs. And that's one thing that we do at CalGal is our customer, when they see, because when we take control of their POs to route them and schedule, and we know when they need to deliver, we'll look, and say, you know what, and we'll make suggestions, say, can we combine these 2 POs? One shipping this date, can you get with the buyer? And so they would have to get on their end to request to either consolidate it into 1 PO or change a due date. And so we work and try to be proactive with that to reduce and get the most freight spend for their buck, is what we call it.
No, that's cool. I mean, it's like, it was an idea that just seemed sort of logical to try to make that work, but not being in freight, I'm like, I don't know, maybe this is impossible. But if with your experience and you think it's possible, then that's exciting.
I mean, finding the co-mans that are willing to collaborate and work, and it would take time and it would take trust and transparency, but I'm hopeful, and maybe we can, get a pilot test to try to get this working and see what we can do.
Well, and I wonder if, like, I know when I was talking to you before, we had talked about how people are using freight to deliver finished goods, but I mean, you can also use freight to pick up raw materials. And so maybe that's an opportunity there where you're talking about an ingredient pickup that, a brand, brands are using different, like a similar ingredient for, different product.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Inbound freight. from your suppliers. And that's also a way that brands can potentially save or at least explore where, because a lot of times they'll say, oh, well, my supplier, they handle the freight and they build it all in, or I have free shipping, but it all gets built into the cost. And so I always encourage folks to do an analysis and say, okay, well, you know, Lisa, give me a quote on how much it would be for me. And then they'll ask their supplier to give them, you know, they know what their pricing is. And so they say, hey, you know, I would like to send my own trucks in. What would my price be? And they're like, okay, Lisa, go ahead, let's start doing this. And so we've helped to reduce cost that way. So that's another way that folks can save some money.
That's cool. Yeah. And I feel like there could be, by doing this like collaborative, I feel like there could be a way to also kind of help drive some more sustainable practices too, because I mean, I know I've heard you mention about like using returnable packaging or things like that. And like if there's multiple impact brands that are going through these same routes and they have this sort of collaborative or collective or whatever you want to call it, like maybe that opens the door for these more sustainable, you know, packaging and that kind of thing.
To reduce carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's eco-friendly, sustainable packaging, recyclable, compostable, biodegradable, that minimizes waste. Consolidation of the shipments that we're talking about. And then most efficient transportation modes. So using rail or water instead of road or air for long distance shipments, that lowers emissions. And then, you know, just electric vehicles again.
Yeah, because then like whoever's in this collaborative can sort of, you know, be all on the same page about those particular aspects that are important to their brand values too.
Yep.
That's really interesting. I'm like excited that seems possible. So does anyone have any questions? I forgot to mention earlier that if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. You can pop it in the chat or come off mute if you have specific questions for Lisa. But yeah,
This is Dorothy. I do have a specific question. So when you're factoring in your price and oil changes, oil prices are changing rapidly, you know, by the hour, by the day, and there's global tensions around that. How do you factor that in when you're, you know, setting your prices? Thank you.
Yeah, so depending on so it's not real like set prices. It depends on how frequently someone's shipping, but we have ways that our customers can get quotes. They can either email us or they can go online to the website, but fuel surcharges are built in. And so when it fluctuates, it does increase or decrease depending. If it's a truckload and we're working on some consistent pricing, we go to those carriers and we set the expectation. Hey, this is the volume you're expected to get. And, you know, and it's just setting an expectation, like as long as fuel is between this range, this is going to be your rate. But if it goes beyond that, then we're going to have a conversation and we'll have a little, increase. And we look at it both ways. So when it comes down, we, try to do a reduction where we can. So thanks, Dorothy.
Yeah, good question. I know it's kind of like, the sort of like, I can't think of the word, but like the fixed pricing for if you get gas delivered to your home or something like that, where, yeah, if it fluctuates, you can kind of stay within that range. Yeah, if you have any other questions, please feel free to chime in. I think it's great to have Lisa here because, like I said, she's got this insight that if you haven't been, you know, immersed in the freight world, yeah, there's just so many things that you probably aren't aware of, where Lisa has that knowledge. So yeah, I think this consolidate and collaborate program that you're talking about is pretty cool. And I think it would be it'd be interesting. Like, what do you have an idea of what kind of products that would work best for, or like what kind of region that would work best for? I mean, have you
Oh,
seen?
I think how it would have to work is just having the knowledge of the brands that are here. For example, we could all jump on a call and I don't know if this is realistic or not. It was just this thought I had, and it's like, okay, if we can get a list of all the pickup points and all the deliveries, I mean, you can white out who the name of who it would be important to know the co-man's name.
Mhm.
And then go to that co-man and say, hey, this is what we want to accomplish. How do you see this working? And can we? And so just being all on the same page, and if there's similar co-mans, and if not, then we start with who's your co-man now, where we look at where you're picking up from, and then we look at the region and what's around. And if there is a lot of other brands that are using that same co-man, then that co-man, I think how I'm seeing it is, could communicate with all his customers and say, hey guys, do you want to be part of this CalGal's
Mhm.
collaborate and consolidate program? And then we could together with those co-mans, create the program for the existing customers. And that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Mhm.
It would
Mhm.
take time, but that's how I see one way of it being possible.
Mhm.
You guys think that that's a realistic thing?
Mhm.
Would.
Let's see.
I think if you see it, you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
What I go ahead,
yeah.
Dorothy.
No, I just wanted to point out, I've used shipping in the past when I was an importer distributor for beauty products, and having a restaurant, having food delivered there. And at this point, as a consultant, it's now my clients who use shipping practice services. But when you were speaking earlier in the session, so for anybody who wasn't here earlier, I think it would be important to hear how nuanced it is to go back and listen to the recording, because I'm thinking from the founder of the CPG company, the founder of the product company, the founder of the dog food company, whatever it is, that there is so much attention that needs to be put on brand building, sales, marketing, admin, cash management, training, producing, chemistry, all of that stuff, that because the nuances involved in the logistics piece of this, it's too much for any founder to understand what that is. So the value that you provide is so incredibly important. And I think, I mean, I used shippers for years. I didn't ever understand it until I heard you speaking 30 minutes ago about how nuanced it was, that when I'd pick up the phone and make the call, everything that had to happen on the back end. So I just want to thank you for the training and the enlightenment that you've provided.
Of course. Happy to do this. Yes.
Oh, Brad, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, just building off that idea. I'd love to know what people in the room think of this as well, but thinking of what we see in the marketplace. And so Deloitte saying, collaboration is the new competition. And there's a white paper on that. And so if anybody wants to Google search that, they can look it up. But seeing companies like Amazon and Netflix sharing servers because they're both paying for the server. So they go to the provider and they say, hey, we can buy a lot more than what we used to be buying. Could we get a better price? And then they just share that price because why not? So thinking about the best practices, the systems and the protocols that are required to be an impact brand, what we see with impact brands is they're able to charge a higher price and the customer has a higher, a lower brand demand elasticity, meaning they're not likely to change who they work with just because of price fluctuation. And so having this very transparent system of showing, hey, this is how we're all working together and collaborating, I think that just goes with the ethos of the brands altogether. And simply looking at, these companies, would they be into this? Well, yeah, if they're an impact brand, they're collaborated or orientated already, right? So they'd probably be open to share these best practices. And if we have to white out the names and do those kinds of things, oh yeah, privacy, we need to make sure all that's there in compliance. But yeah, I think that the idea is definitely, now can we pay for it will be the whole fact, and are the cost savings there when we collaborate? So it'd be cool to try to quantify those cost savings that we can get from collaborating with impact carriers. Some of my thoughts.
Yeah, no, that's such a great point. And you're right. I think that is really part of the ethos. Like with these emerging brands, impact brands, they're, I think, really willing to find ways to work together, because I feel like that's kind of the only way to survive is you've got to like pool your resources together whenever you can. So yeah, I think that's a really good point to like look at the cost, if that would be a barrier, or if there's a way to actually get cost savings through that. That'd be really cool to find out.
I
Okay.
have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, my name is Kristen. I own a local brand called Root and Splendor. And Lisa, thanks for being here today. Yeah, really excited to hear this conversation. And I would just validate and confirm working with freight brokers has been a huge stress relief off of us as a small business. So I really appreciate what you do. I'm really excited to talk with you more, Lisa, after this and see if we can, dive in and see what kind of services you offer. So when we have a freight quote that we need to access, do we shoot you over an email? Do you have an online platform that we just type in what we need and pull all the rates? So just want to know a little bit more about just that logistical piece for you.
Yeah, so we offer flexibility. So we try to make it as seamless as possible to work together. If you're currently going online to a website, we do have a website that you could go online and type in your shipment specs and see all the different trucking companies, see their transit times. Just be aware that, if there is something that has to get there by a certain date, get us involved so that we can pay very close attention to it and keep our eyes on it and advise if that's a carrier you should go with or shouldn't. Or if you're just sending an email, we've got Tyler's actually on this call. He's my main go-to ops, and we have a whole, we're under the American Group brokerage umbrella. And so they have additional customer service as well. So yeah, you can email, or we do have a website you can go to.
Okay. Yeah, I love that because it sounds like it's easy just to go into the platform and type in, but to know that you all are there for the customer service. That's really what I look for with my business, is making sure there's a human on the other side
Yes.
that can help us when we have questions. And questions come up a lot, especially as young brands and new to shipping. It's a daunting world of freight. So I appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we'd love to help you out, and yeah, appreciate
Yeah,
you.
great. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. And as I said, I haven't worked directly with Lisa on shipments, but I know some community members who have, and just absolutely love that aspect of working with Lisa, which is like, they know that there's somebody there that's looking out for them, and they can jump on a call anytime to get support. So yeah, that's amazing. And I know Kristen, Root and Splendor, amazing brand. I'm obsessed with the
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, I appreciate
yeah.
what you do, is putting these community calls together. It's my first one I've jumped
Oh,
in
good.
on, but I agree. Community is so important and so helpful, especially in today's age. So it's really neat to see all the people helping one another out.
Where are
Yeah.
you located, Kristen?
We're in Vista, so
Oh.
North County, San Diego.
Okay. I'm in San
Yeah.
Clemente, so we're neighbors.
Nice. We are neighbors. I love that.
Woo-hoo.
Awesome.
Meet for coffee.
Yeah, for sure. I know I love those local meetups. Okay, so any other questions? I want to make sure we don't take up too much of people's time today. But yeah, this has been really cool. I'm excited to see if we can kind of inch towards this idea of the collaborate and consolidate.
Yeah. And I think, Kate, with your presence of your community members, maybe it's just sending out an email. We can talk together and say, hey, we can come up with that and throw that out there and see if there's anyone that's like, yeah, I want to participate in this, and we can start from there.
Oh, and speaking of email, if you are not already on our email list, please go to the website and sign up, or shoot me an email, Kate at Brand Pollinators, to make sure that we can include you with that upcoming information. And then also you said you had like a FAQ, or you said you had some kind of a.
Yeah, it's a best practices for profits. I have together that, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, we can share that in the email as well. Any other last questions for Lisa? No? Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. I think Lisa also has actually a special offer for people who came to the call today. So, do you want to tell them what you're going to share with our community?
Just a little Kristen incentive to, if you did want to start. So I'm offering, since you're here today and giving us your time, 10% off every shipment for the first month of shipping, as a thank you. And if you're happy with our service and want to continue savings for another month, just refer us to a friend. And if they start shipping, we'll continue those 10% savings for 2 months. So appreciate everybody coming here. So thank you for your time.
Thanks for that offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how much you're spending, but if, it could be thousands of dollars back on your bottom line.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, that's such a great deal, because like nobody gives discounts on freight. I mean, it's like the grocery store. Like
It goes the other way typically.
Yeah, exactly. So that's so awesome. Well, yeah, definitely. Lisa, what's the best contact for you if people want to get in touch? Or
So
should I
there,
intro?
yeah, you can, my email is Lisa at CalGal, CalGal freight.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. And I don't know if this will work, but no, I had a scheduled time with Lisa real quick is my calendar link. I'll just throw in the chat. If you want to schedule some time.
Book a call. Nice. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for your offer and for sharing your insights with our community today. Again, this is recorded, so if you know anybody that would be interested in hearing about what Lisa's sharing with us today, we'll share out the recording after this. And then, yeah, please stay in touch. Follow us on our newsletter, our weekly newsletter. We have all kinds of upcoming interesting things happening in our community, lots of ways to collaborate, or, just reach out to me directly if you have any questions, Kate at brandpollinators.com. And thank you all so much for coming today. Great to see you.